Board met tonight in executive session. We're now ready to start the public portion of our meeting. We did not have any correspondence this week. I think that we're going to flip our usual order because we have a number of people here to celebrate, to give their wishes to. We have a pile of flags sitting right here with our superintendent, so I think that that's where we'll start.
I'm going to call Mr. Murphy first. Oh, you already do that.
He was
I just happened to be standing.
You volunteered yourself. Volunteered. The first one I'm going to recognize is Mrs. HK. Mrs. HK.
I'm just going to say a couple words about Myra. So, Mrs. Hernandez-Kinlock has been, we never say that, that's why it sounds so strange coming out of my mouth. Miss HK, her retirement's a big loss for Glen Ridge and for the primary level for our students. If you've never had an opportunity to come out to one of our spring or winter concerts, I will tell you that it's amazing how much the children learn and grow under Myra's direction. Our first and second graders harmonize beautifully. After every concert, parents and grandparents, they always line up to tell me how wonderful Myra is, how she's a gem, that we're lucky to have her, and how much their children and grandchildren love her. And that's really true. It's without fail every concert. Yeah, the children adore her. And I have to say also about Myra that whenever you have one of those days where you're super busy and you're just over-focusing on all the tasks that you have, you can rely on Myra to just snap you right out of it. Whether it's with a joke, with a smile. Sometimes you don't understand the joke. But the smile, then, it makes you smile. It snaps you out of it. She's just a ray of sunshine for me, for her colleagues, for the children. We were so lucky to have her all this time. I was lucky to have her. And, we're going to miss you, and congratulations. Thank you so much.
And I'm going to call Mr. Donovan up next. There's 3 individuals retiring from Richard Avenue School. We're in alphabetical order. And Flippin.
literally open up all the doors.
So Pam, I think what we've been saying at Ridgewood Avenue School is for all of the 3 ladies that are going to be retiring next year, the landscape of our building really changes tremendously. Without having Pam in that main office, I can't imagine what it's going to be like for every morning to walk in and not to see her face, for parents not to call, and I think probably every single parent who has passed through Ridgewood Avenue School has either called or stopped by at one point or another and certainly benefited from Pam's kindness and support. And maybe every once in a while when she wasn't supposed to take a lunch, she did anyway, because that is who she is. And she will do whatever is needed for the kids. She will do whatever is needed for the staff. People joke that a smart principal knows who runs the building, and that is the secretaries. And that certainly has been true for Pam. Pam is getting ready to leave Glen Ridge. She is one of the original Glen Ridge moms. Her husband was a Board of Education member. She raised her children. Her son's here in Glen Ridge. She has been active in the church. She has worked at Ridgewood Avenue School for 18 years. And now her next adventure will bring her down to Stone Harbor, where it will be their gain to have her down there, and I can only imagine how she will be getting involved down there. She will be extremely missed. I know that most especially my mother, will miss her because she is always telling me that I need to call my mother more. and she has done that, and I will miss her so much.
Joyce Mooney, who's not in attendance tonight, wants to say a few words.
Joyce has, the three women that are retiring. One of them is in the main office, one of them is a classroom teacher, and one of them is a related arts teacher in the library. Joyce has a true love for all things literature. She has inspired the children by way of reading. She has been someone who so many children have gravitated toward, who love to spend their lunch and their recess surrounded by her. Joyce is a very strong woman. She recently battled cancer and did so gracefully and with incredible strength. She is a character. It is hard to be around Joyce Mooney and not to smile and not to be laughing. She's another person whose next chapter will bring great adventures. I shared this at our home and school reception. In September, Joyce will, instead of return to school, she will be off in Yellowstone National Park in a cabin with her brother and sister. She is a true hiker, a true outdoors woman, always up for any kind of adventure and will be definitely missed.
One of the first teachers I met at Ridgewood Avenue, Jean Saxon.
I have been fortunate enough to have great relationships with all three of the women who are retiring, Jeannie being one of them. When you think of Jeannie Saxon, for me, and I think for a lot of people, you think of high expectations, and you think of high standards, and you think of rigor, and you think of achievement. And these are all things that she has been so focused on. She started as a 4th grade teacher. She ends, I think, in probably your favorite spot as a 5th grade math teacher. What she gets out of these students is beyond impressive. She realizes their potential, she sets the bar high, and she will work to make sure that the students achieve those expectations, and that is something that has been very special. Those are some things that you think of when you hear Jeannie. What you might not think of is the fact that almost every morning I have now gotten used to listening to Jeannie walk by my office singing. She begins her day singing. She sings in the classroom with her children. She is someone who I just recently said, I need a few hours to hear your entire life story because I think it has been a very unique adventure. From singing with Duke Ellington to teaching Joe Frazier how to sing the Star Spangled Banner for the Sphinx Ali fight, and then I think a whole lot of other adventures that she has had along the way. Another woman who I know this is just the next chapter, and I know will do great things and will definitely be missed at Ridgewood Avenue School.
Joe Caravello, if you could come up. Next to retirees are from this building.
Yeah, Christine Ruth was an aide with us. She's got to be like about 18 years. She's with our preschool program. She was one who was there from the beginning. She retired back in December. Wonderful person. When she left, you can't replace these people who've been there for so long. And she left to take care of her grandchild, her grandson. So we saw her last week. She stopped by, and she says she loves every minute of every day now spending time with him. So I'll pass this along to her when I see her at the shop right now.
Next is our reading specialist, the Honorable Ben.
always said that the great schools are about great people. You know, you can buy a curriculum, you can buy textbooks, but when you have great people working in your buildings, that's what makes us a great place. Yvonne is finishing 40 years of education, teaching children how to read, teaching children with learning disabilities, reading disabilities. She knows everything about reading. I don't know anyone who knows words. She's been an advisor to me and to the staff, a ray of light in our building. And when she said she was going to retire, I said, in 10 years? So we're going to miss her a lot. She's a huge loss for us. And she truly is someone you say, how can we possibly replace her? We'll find someone different, but we'll never replace Yvonne because she's done such a wonderful job. Over the course of her lifetime, she's taught thousands of kids. And that's really a big deal, and she deserves a big round of applause.
That's my buddy.
I'm going to recognize the high school retirees. Unfortunately, both of these individuals couldn't make it tonight. Our high school principal, Louis Melthor, could not make it. Louis has been with us for 2.5 years. He exemplifies a phrase that he frequently uses, proud principal. And he really is a proud principal. He enjoys what he does in the principal role. He enjoys being with the students. He enjoys being at the events. He thrives on the education process. So the 2.5 years that he's been here, he's made an impact in so many different ways. Really brought his love of music and the arts to the school, and we continue to see that area thrive. So I want to thank him for this. Second is our school nurse. Mr. Lee's going to come and say a few words. Donna, I shared my office next to Donna for a few years, so it's always great to be next to the school nurse. You see a lot of interesting things.
Yeah, going along with Mr. Phillips, I have to say, for the past 12 years, I really got to know Nurse Story very well because her office is kind of across from mine. And I used to wonder every day, where are all these kids going? What's going on? Not only do they go in there if they're hurt for a cut or a concussion or a cough drop, but she's also there for the students if they're having a bad day. They did something bad on a test, didn't do as well as they thought. She was always there to pick up their spirits, to lift their spirits. Whether it's a physical injury or a mental injury, she was always there for the students, but also for our faculty in the building too. She was somebody people would trust and go to and talk about. She was a motherly figure to many of these students in this building, and I can truly say she's definitely going to be missed here next year.
Yes, the one who doesn't like any attention, Peter Caprio. Peter. Peter came in 2001. BAs are very difficult to find, and to have one stay in the district this long is very unique. We get perfect audits almost every year, and that's a result of Pete really being thorough and just understanding his role as a school business administrator. I'm amazed by how much he knows. Frequently, we have to go down to the county to just present our mid-year budget, and everyone knows Pete, and they turn to him for advice, and you know, it's been a real benefit to have him as part of the Glen Ridge administrative team. To fill his shoes is going to be very difficult. We only have a handful of central administrators, and to get a new person in to understand Glen Ridge as much as he does, from the books to the buildings, will take years for somebody to gain that knowledge. You know, it's always a blast to have him in the office. You hear his ladies upstairs laughing a lot. He has a wonderful, if not warped, sense of humor. I know he's going to enjoy retirement. We've been talking about it for about a year and a half. So congratulations.
Wemridge life from these retirements, and it's hard to darn up those goals. We have people who sing, people who taught others to sing, people who taught so many people how to read, a nurse who has healed everyone at the high school at one time or another, a business administrator who can remake a budget in 10 days when the state does something like taking away all your financial aid. What can you say about people who can do those things, who can do so many things? We're a small district, it's all hands on deck all the time, and they're people who you could not possibly pay enough, but they paid us by being with us. So thank you all so much. And thank you to your friends who came. We're going to continue with the rest of our agenda tonight, although I must say I'm catching my throat doing that. But for those of you who have other engagements and want to leave, that's fine. We do love it when people stay with us. But that is entirely up to you. So for those who are honored, thank you so much. We are honored by your service, and for those who are with them, if you want to leave, now is the time.
Seeing all these retirements, 9, I can't remember last time it was bad, 9.
I can't either.
Roughly a year and a half ago, we were trying to sell the bond referendum. I spoke about us having an older staff down the road, the teachers would be retiring, and that's going to cause some breakage. I didn't expect it all to happen in 1 year. So we wish them the best, but and they're all going to be very difficult to replace, and we'll do our best to find people who somewhat fill their shoes. I have a couple other items that I'd like to speak about tonight. First, I'm proud to bring one of our high school students here. Andrew Lachese is joined for his Eagle Scout. And every year I get a request to write a letter to all those who have achieved the honor of becoming an Eagle Scout, and I get to read about what they've done, their Eagle Scout project, and it's amazing how much time, effort, fundraising that's involved in accomplishing these tasks. Typically, I've seen a lot of parks areas being refurbished. Andrew has picked a project that will benefit the school, so I'm going to let Andrew come up here and present the project.
Hello everyone, my name is Andrew Lachese. I am part of the Wemridge Troop 5, and recently I've been a Life Scout, so that means I'm going to be going to Eagle soon. And I have to come up with a project. Recently, back in February, a couple of weeks before Parkland, I was thinking of ideas, and a day before the Parkland, I presented my idea to some of the adults at my troop, and afterwards I realized how much more my project has gained in importance. My project is to place weeding control kits in the schools, which will be used by staff, and they will be trained and prepared to use them in possibly mass casualty incidents or other small events in the classroom which require weeding control. And this can affect the school greatly because weeding cause of trauma deaths are, because of uncontrolled weeding, a quarter of them are deemed survivable if people use weeding control techniques. And this could save lives. Thank you for your time. This is sort of my project. this is what the kids will look like. Well, I want it to be a color that's bright and cheerful. A little bit.
Those are Glenridge colors.
Yeah, sure. But I want it to be nice and, but, so, yeah, thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I can.
What's in the kit?
So, there will be 2 tourniquets. There will be, pressure bandages and, pressure dressings to apply pressure to the wounds, and then tourniquets will be applied to the limbs.
So, Andrew, how do we go about having the staff trained?
So there is an organization called FEMA, which is a Federal Emergency Management Agency. They have a class. It's called Until Help Arrives, and it teaches people how to deal with certain emergencies and how to help people with injuries. And it's a free class. You call them, they just tell them location.
Andrew, how many kids are in the project?
Yeah, so there will be 45 kits that will be placed in the schools. They will be mostly on first floor classrooms, and there will be in offices and central locations and bigger areas like gyms or cafeterias.
And you individually, do you have to fundraise for?
Yeah, it's around $8,000.
Very impressive.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Thank you so much for taking the time.
Last week, the state released the HIP report card, if you remember, I believe it was 2 meetings ago, Jack. We needed the violence and vandalism report. At that time, the state hadn't released the HIP report cards. So we've gotten that data. I wanted to just share it with you tonight. We have to post it by June 13th. It's already up on our website, so we're ahead of that game. At our next board meeting, we'll go into a more detailed report with it. But just so you guys know what our scores were. Forest, Linden, and Ridgewood all had a score of 77 out of a possible 78. The high school had a score of 74, and the district had a score of 76. And I believe there's 8 criteria that we self-score on based on the activities and the procedures we have in place. So those scores are consistent with what we've done the last few years. And it's something that always gives us a little bit of time to reflect on what we're doing and areas that we can improve on. So as I mentioned, the next board meeting will give a more thorough report on that. About 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, I put out a parent survey. I made the mistake of calling it a climate survey, I guess. Everyone thought it was about the temperature in the buildings. But it's a little bit more than that. Hopefully everyone had a chance to read the survey and participate in it. Over the summer, I'll go into more depth about what and look at the numbers where there isn't a bunch of promotions, graduations, and everything else going on that happens at the end of the year. But we had a really high participation rate at Forest and Linden, where over 100 parents at both schools participated in it. Ridgewood Avenue had 240 parents give feedback. The high school, the 7th and 8th graders, parents, we heard from 100 of them, and we heard from 130 high school parents. So that'll be meaningful data that we're looking at the areas that we're seeing weaknesses. It gives us something to focus on and go out and try to get additional information, what those concerns are. We're compiled information, and come early September, I'll share that with the public. I also shared with the audience class selection for the class of 2018. Again, it's always impressive to see the schools that our students are getting in. We have 94% of our graduates currently planning on attending a 4-year college or university next fall. Those are amazing numbers. When I share that with some of my colleagues, they're always impressed by just our students' dedication to education and their commitment to continuing their education beyond high school. Every year at this meeting, I do like to share those college selections, and sometimes those kids on waivers might hear back and they might choose their selection, but you get a very concrete idea of where our students will be attending, hopefully their next 4 years. The last thing I want to talk about is on tonight's agenda is a resolution to approve the new high school principal that I'm recommending. And I just want to take you through that process a little bit. Once we found out that Mr. Melcourt was retiring, we tried to get an ad in the local papers, down to New Jersey School Administrators Association, into the websites where we know people will be looking, K-12, school jobs, and so forth. We received 70 applications, so we had plenty to choose from. We went through the resume and the applicants. We brought in 11 applicants to interview in the first round. Prior to that, I met with every program leader at the high school just to find out what they were looking in for their new high school principal. We had some really in-depth conversations. And it was important to hear from them because every department has a little different approach, and based on the feedback of the teachers in that department, they're all seeking maybe something a little bit different. So it was nice to hear from them. So first round interviews were conducted by myself and 2 other administrators. From those 11 candidates, we narrowed it down to 4 candidates. In the meantime, a parent survey went out, so I started hearing back from the parents. Those 4 candidates went through roughly about 2 hours of process where they had 2 group interviews. One group contained parents and teachers. Another group was a group of students. And then they had 2 administrative tasks they had to complete. Based on the feedback from both groups, the task, and what I observed through first round, we picked 2 finalists. Those 2 finalists then had roughly about an hour and a half interview going over different scenarios. And 2 other administrators were on that committee along with myself, and 2 board members were present. They weren't asking questions, they were just observing. In the end, one of the candidates who I thought in the first interview really stood out, continued to stand out in that process, and I'm very happy to recommend John Lawler for the high school principal job. He's been a principal in the 7th through 12 building. He's taught at a very competitive high school. So once we get to that personnel section, the board will have an opportunity to hopefully approve. So I wanted to let you know that I'm very pleased with the process. Getting feedback from Mr. Lawler, he seemed very impressed with the process also, and I'm very confident he will be successful.
He is with us. The President's report is short and sweet. Most of it was a celebration of our retirees, but I wanted to give you an update on the state budget process, which of course has an effect on all of us. The leaders of the legislature and the governor's office are working together. We hope to come up with a final state budget. It will probably involve some reallocation of a category of aid that we don't happen to get, called adjustment aid, but that could potentially result in a bit of a bump in state aid for us. Currently, we are funded at about 44% of what we should be funded at, according to the SRA formula. There are rumors that that amount for districts like ours will go up perhaps to a big high of 58%. So we are not counting those chickens before they're hatched because they're state financial chickens and they have a habit of disappearing. But there is that potential. So we will wait and see. It may go right down to the wire, which is June 30th, after which they will shut down the state if they don't have a budget. As you recall, last year that happened. So those of you planning beach vacations might take that under advisement. But the situation is still developing. And now, it is time for the first public comment period. For comments or questions on agenda items, please, if you have a question or comment, tell us your name, assure us that you live in Glenridge, and let us know what you have to say. Mrs. Solomon.
Two questions. Maybe I misunderstood. It says college selections in the class of 2018. Can you give us a list?
There actually,
Is there a
next to Peter, there's a list.
Peter Harrigal is the custodian of
There
that
you go,
list.
I have right here.
So if anybody wants them, here they are. We should have said that, sorry.
And number two, did you happen to know Mr. Lawler or know of him before the selection process?
Okay, any other questions or comments? Yes, Peter.
Hi, Peter Harrigal, I live in Glenridge. This may be, we may get more involved in 2 weeks when you talk about the HIT program in more detail. But can you just tell me a little bit about what the grading system is, and is it a procedural grade based on the process, or is it grade based on the substance of the reports, or?
It's a self-reflective grade report. It's based on the process, the personnel, the reporting, the programs you have in place to prevent HIB incidents. There's I believe 8 categories that you self-reflect on, and you give yourself a grade. Then we have to provide evidence to the state that that what we're doing reflects our grades. If we don't provide that evidence, the state will adjust our grade accordingly.
And so what's the significance of that grade? What does that mean to the state, and/or what does it mean to us? What's the effect of that?
It's a way of getting districts to self-reflect on their practices, and it's also a way for the district to monitor what's going on in the schools to make sure that they're addressing this and multiple components. So if you go on our website, it has all hit our HIP report card grade, which is on the left-hand side. It will list all the categories and our grade in each of those categories.
And it's also a legal requirement that we do that for the state, so it's also something we have to account for, and they have to account for it here.
Does if you have more bullying incidents, does that affect your grade
No.
too, or not?
No.
It's based, so it's more of a process grade
Correct.
than the
Correct.
substantive results of any bullying investigation.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Mrs. Allen.
Yeah, just to follow on that, when I have reviewed the form you all filled out over the years, there are some errors in your stuff. And I'd be more than happy to show them out to the representatives.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Okay.
I'm sorry.
We have-
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I was late to
sorry.
raise.
I'm sorry.
Bernice Bonnet in Glenridge. For the climate surveys, how are those going to be evaluated? Are you having a research company go through the results, or is it being done?
It's being done internally. I'll be going through the result with the central administration. We'll compile the data, review it, and then it'll be shared with the building administrators.
Other questions or comments? All right, we have some administrative on it. It is the first meeting of the month, so we share our media liaison reports. Let's start on your end, Michael. Okay, let's start with you, Heather.
I have nothing. Women's from the school last meeting is tomorrow evening at Celebration.
Oh, that sounds like a watch report on it, Jill.
Yeah.
Tracy.
Okay, I'm going to try to be speedy, but I have a lot. I attended the Forest Avenue Public School last meeting of the year, which was on June 6th. The public school, like, blows me away every year what they're able to accomplish. But this year, they spent a lot of time and their energy raising funds for the playground. And it's amazing how much they raised and how much they accomplished. And they're very pleased that the playground equipment's been ordered. And it's like,
Is it going in the summer?
yes, yeah, it's supposed to come this week.
Supposed to arrive next week. Install within 2 weeks after it's arrived.
Wow. Gas lamp, they have a lot going on this summer. They're offering both a junior and a teen summer camp at Ridgewood Avenue in July. The shows are Beauty and the Beast for juniors and Focus for the teens. They've had a very successful year this year with huge community participation and support. And they're very excited that there are a number of professional adults in the industry who are eager to get involved in the future with them. So we're looking forward to next year. And they'd like to express their gratitude to the board and the schools in general for the support to their programs. Brace had their last parent-to-parent meeting in May, and they reported that there will be some new parents and leadership roles in the fall. So their first meeting. Since we're talking about retiring, I wanted to spend a few minutes, if you can indulge me, and talk about the Alternative Funding Committee.
Yes, please.
It's going to be retiring their script program. I've been back and forth with Kathy Weissenberger, who's been very busy, obviously, with graduate graduation, but she did provide me with some information that I'd like to share, and I think we should all really acknowledge what they've done for our schools. The program was started in 2004 by Julie Mason and Anne Marie Morrow in response to a need for additional funds for our schools. And it started out with the script gift cards that we're all so familiar with. The program's grown a lot over the years, and it includes other type of free corporate money programs that that are popping up on our website. But since 2004, the team has donated $187,000, including the approximate $20,000 that they're going to donate this year. And I'm assuming that the executive council and Betsy will look at the project for that a bit too. Over the years, Forest has received approximately $40,000. Linden has received $30,000. Ridgewood Avenue $30,000, and the high school $66,500. And Kathy asked me to please mention the following people who were really instrumental in this program. Julie Mason, Emery Morrow, Kathy, of course, me, different points. Mary O'Farrell, Tanya Liddy, Ann Moisen, Bridget Komorowski, Missy Santani, Claire Delaney, Janice Shara, Nancy McMahon, Kathy Martin, Christine Bagan, Dawn Silvera, Jen Pine, Megan Blank, Dawn Cuman, Gretchen Koss, Amy Luca, Tara Harnett, and Laura Jen. The benefit mobile app will remain open for those that are interested in participating in that way. And in the fall, each school will be launching an Amazon Smile account, which will benefit their individual schools. More information is still on the GRB link, so if anybody's interested in the annual reports, and I believe there's a list of the success story projects that they've done over the years. We just launched
I think first a round of applause. No, that was time well spent, and I think we should honor the leverage benefits people, and probably in the fall when everybody's back. I was on board when they started leverage benefits, and our fundraising capacity was not anywhere near what it is now. We were in dire straits. Our financial crisis never seems to abate. And these women came and gave hours and hours, hundreds, probably thousands of hours of volunteer time to raise money for the schools. Kathy Weissenberger has been such an able leader. She's carried it on when other people would give it up. And I know Mike DeLue knows the process intimately since his wife Claire was one of the leaders. They have done things for us that no one else could at times when no one else was willing. And so we can't thank them enough, but we'll thank them properly at a later date in public. Paul, anything? Okay. I did not get to the Ridgewood Avenue Home and School, but Nicole was good enough to give me the gist of their meeting. And I know Mike Donovan could probably correct me. They're going to have a quiz night in 2019 at the Leverage Country Club, so mark your calendars for March 30th, 2019. It's going to be chaired by Nick Nichols and Carlos Vallejo. The sixth grade promotion, 19 chairs, will be Lisa Clifford and Cindy Manzo. They are very close to their goal of $31,000 for the locker campaign. That's good news, Michael. And the order has been placed, and the homeschool will bridge the remaining gap up to 5K if they don't have the total by the installation date. They held their end of the year reception at the Quinn's house, and they honored the retiring Ridgewood Avenue teachers. And they also have a new officer for to serve as first vice president, Tony Grover, who will be first vice president of the home and school from 2018 through 2020. And that is the Ridgewood Avenue report. Michael, is there anything to add to that?
You did great.
Okay. Ally?
Okay. The high school home and school meeting was rescheduled to last Wednesday, the 6th. I had the opportunity to attend the first half of the meeting, so if I'm missing anything, okay. Mr. Melcher started by reviewing a number of current high school events, including the completion of the English language PARC exams for the sophomore students, the prom, which he explained was an excellent event. The students were fabulous, I remember wonderful times. It was right out of the storybook. Senior Downey Park trip, the second chamber music concert, and the 8th grade dinner dance. He also talked about a number of awards events of late, including the High School Academic Awards Assembly at Ridgewood Avenue School, which I had the pleasure of attending, and like every year, just mind-blowing, incredible group of students, incredible accomplishments. The 7th and 8th grade honors breakfast at Goodrich High School, the High School Rotary High Honors Breakfast last week, and the upcoming athletic awards, which I think were yesterday. Tomorrow. Okay. Thank you. Tuesday, tomorrow. Okay. All right. We were reminded about a couple of dates. He reminded us that quarterlies were Monday and Thursday of this week at the high school. Friday is move-up day. On the 14th, schedules will be available to students at Skyward. The 21st, report cards will be available, and graduation is on the 15th, right, this Friday. Looking ahead to next year, just a couple of things the home and school is planning. ACT, SAT prep course for the fall, and over the course of the summer, volunteers are working on a renovation of the teacher's lunchroom. It's really important to have beyond that. And that's it.
And the gentleman did a great concert at Green Gardens. Yes.
Recently renovated that foundation.
Very good. Jim?
Yes, I'd like to announce that the judge issued a ruling in our dispute with the urology group regarding Central School, and is going to allow the medical practice to stay in this building through the month of October of this year. So the date is actually similar to the very date that we provided them last year. And so this is certainly, we've had a lose-lose situation with them over the course of the last year, where both parties wasted a considerable amount of money on lawyers to just negotiate a settlement, and most importantly, the district that lost the year of construction, and be able to get the kids in the building this September. Now that we know the final date, we can start our trade packages, scope design, demolition, and that work will begin over the summer. But our new timeline will be working toward getting the building suitable for the following summer.
But we can start the demo now.
Well, we can start now. So our teams are already working on scoping the work, but we'll have to work around them until we get to the front.
So despite that year, it's a win for us because we get started.
Oh, it brings closure to the issue, so that we're excited about actually working and starting to renovate that building for the students.
Right, and you might have mentioned that there's several other projects that will be done in the
Yes.
summer. Just windows and doors, bathrooms, and the lights.
Yeah, a lot of work waiting for the kids to get out of the building.
That's right.
Hard to do bathrooms any other way. Okay, we have some administrative items, quite a few. Michael, would you move the administrative items?
I move A1 through G31.
Okay. Those of you following on the agenda will note that this is the time of the year, since this is our last meeting of the fiscal year, which ends on June 30th, we do a lot of routine reappointments at this time, so that's why the long list of agenda items. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Tim. Any discussion on any of the many administrative items? Discussion, questions, comments? Okay, Peter, would you call the roll?
Mr. Baloo? Mr. Keppel?
Aye.
Ms. Lang?
Aye.
Mr. Romano?
Aye.
Ms. St. Aubert?
Aye.
Dr. Yaros Ramos? Ms. Ginsburg?
I abstain from A4 and A16. Aye for the rest of them.
Motion carries.
Personnel, Dave Campbell is not here. Ally, would you move the personnel items?
Sure, I will run through E19 on the agenda.
May I have a second? Second. Okay. In keeping with our rules, personnel items are discussed in exec session. Peter, when you're ready.
Mr. Baloo? Aye. Mr. Keppel?
Aye.
Ms. Lang?
Aye.
Mr. Romano?
Aye.
Ms. St. Aubert? Dr. Yaros Ramos?
Aye.
Ms. Ginsburg?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Michael, curriculum items.
One and two.
May I have a second? Second from Heather. Any discussion of either the New Jersey Interscholastic Boys Lacrosse League or the Girls League? All right, if there's no discussion. Peter?
Mr. Baloo? Aye. Mr. Keppel?
Aye.
Ms. Lang?
Aye.
Mr. Romano?
Aye.
Ms. St. Aubert?
Aye.
Dr. Yaros Ramos?
Aye.
Ms. Ginsburg?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Before we move to business items, I'd like to draw your attention to B3 on your agenda. Two gifts. We accept with thanks the generous donation from the Citrino family for 6 water filtration stations replacing the vintage, in quotes, water fountains for a total amount of $9,600, which includes the installation. I have to say that the Citrino family, their foundation has been very generous to us on an annual basis for quite a long time. It's a wonderful thing. And we also accept with thanks the generous donation from the Glenridge Rotary Foundation for a total amount of $927.95 to enhance the tower garden. So, I know you will carry our thanks back to the Rotarians. Thank you. All right, Tim, would you move the business items?
Yes, I move B1 through B8. B8 to be found in the agenda.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Second. Any questions, comments, or discussion on the business items?
Peter, in B7, which highlights the rates for different tuition, how are those fees and rates compared to last year?
They're flat.
Yeah, so there's no increase at all?
No increase.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on business items? Seeing none, Pete, would you call the roll?
Mr. Baloo? Aye. Mr. Keppel?
Aye.
Ms. Lang?
Aye.
Mr. Romano?
Aye.
Ms. St. Aubert?
Aye.
Dr. Yaros Ramos?
Aye.
Ms. Ginsburg?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, we've reached the second public comment period for comments or questions on agenda or other items. Any questions or comments?
Bernice Bonnet. Can you talk about the curriculum writing, P9, just what that entails for social studies?
Every year, we go through a curriculum review. It's a 5-year cycle with the content subject areas. So teachers, this year it's been social studies teachers through pre-K through 12 are meeting throughout the year, reviewing the curriculum, reviewing the standards, articulating between the grade levels, looking at assessments and so forth. And then they go back and revise the current curriculum. Sometimes it's based on new state standards they might have to revise. Sometimes it's just new instructional strategies they want to implement. So during the summer, we pay teachers to rewrite all our curriculum based on the contents subject area we're working on. And next year it's English,
Science.
science. And we're also reviewing textbooks and so forth that are associated with those content areas.
If you can talk, the first year is writing, and then in the subsequent 4 years, there are other steps, right?
So the first year is really reviewing, then we go into writing, and then it's basically reviewing again and editing and adjusting as necessary. So it never stops occurring, especially the last 5 years. We've had a lot of changes in our state standards that required us to go back and adjust what we're teaching at what grade level, when it's being introduced at a certain grade level. So, and especially the high school, we're creating new courses every year. So, something that might not be in our that social studies content area, we have AP capstone is a new course next year. That doesn't fall under the social studies curriculum, but that will also be written there.
Okay, thank you. Other questions or comments? Seeing none, may I have a motion to adjourn? Move and second. Second for Valley. We are adjourned. Thank you all.